What's up, DIY queens? It's your design bestie, Cara Newhart, and this is Make Space. So, today I have Anita on the show, and I am beyond excited to have you on and dig into your journey and your work. So, thank you so much for coming and welcome to Make Space.
It is very exciting for me to connect with you and your audience, and I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to sharing my home therapy with you.
Oh my gosh, I think we all need it, and I'm beyond excited. But before we get into kind of your method and your approach and your amazing book, I wanted to kind of dive into your journey because you have such an interesting path going from a therapist to an interior designer. So maybe let's start with like becoming a therapist, like why you chose therapy in the first place, and then kind of
Yeah.
the journey that brought you to interior design.
So I think everything that happens to each of us, there's always a purpose or a reason, even if it's painful or challenging. So my parents were in a rocky relationship and divorced. And so thankfully, my mom was very mindful of our mental health, and brought us to family
Yeah.
therapy. And I saw some really great outcomes and benefits from experiencing therapy with my mom and sister. The three of us were like, you know, just at that point in time, just clinging to each other and needing extra support. So
Yeah.
that made a huge impact in my journey with mental health, knowing that you don't have to suffer
Mm.
by yourself. Outside
Yeah.
strangers who become, um, you know, incredible, a support system can be super instrumental in your growth, your personal growth. So
Yeah.
that was a big impact. And after college, you're kind of searching, going through that, not mid-quarter life crisis yet, but you're kind of
But
searching. And
kind
I
of.
decided, yeah, a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I decided to go into graduate school for marriage and family therapy because that personal experience throughout the years was so impactful. I wanted to help others in the same way. So I became an
Wow.
intern. And then, after accruing thousands of hours as an intern working with families, children, couples, I became licensed and was pretty much, on my own, pounding the pavement, growing my practice. And that was really exciting. My husband that I
Nice.
met in graduate school, he is also a licensed therapist. That was our journey. We didn't think much after that.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started therapy, and I've been practicing for 20 years.
Wow. Wow. That's so incredible. And what a huge foundation of having like that level of experience and all those clients to now be able to draw from in this new phase with interior design. So, I guess having a career that you clearly loved because you were in it for so long, doing such amazing work, what was it like to transition into a new trajectory? Was there ever an inkling that you would be changing it up, or did you just think you were going to do therapy the whole time? And like, did it start slow? Like, did you have an interest in interior design before, or was it just like a plot twist?
Wonderful question that I get asked every day. So
Yes. Yes.
I am a creative at heart. My dad's an architect. My mom, besides doing she does real estate broker. She's a real estate broker, but really in her heart of hearts, she's a
Right.
watercolor artist. Like, our family is just
Yeah.
very, it's just not your typical Asian family. We're very creative. Hey, no,
Yeah.
I should say this. Lots of Asian families are creative, but usually it's like you're thinking of like practical things. That's just in our culture.
Right.
It
Right.
is what it is.
Right.
But my dad became an architect, which is way more creative than the sciences, right?
Mm.
And so I grew up in a very creative environment. I was absorbing so much design. My sister and I would be his little audience when he had to go and pitch proposals of landscaping designs or
Yeah.
interior commercial designs. We would just soak that in. So it was always a part of me. But what really kind of was the pivotal moment for me was after I had my third baby, and I knew my emotional plate was pretty full.
Right.
And my sister, who's my ultimate cheerleader, my ultimate art director, she was like, just start showing what you do at home, on social media. And I thought she was crazy. But I decided to just teach myself social media and go for it because I knew my mental health was very important and I didn't want to not give all that I could in the office.
Right.
It wouldn't be fair to my clients, wouldn't be fair to me and my little babies at home.
Yeah.
So that's what really pivoted my decisions is being in an office, helping people was awesome, but it was
Yeah.
for my personality in the long run, probably a little confining.
Right.
I'm not really a office type of person. I'm much more of a tactile, get in there, get dirty,
Yes.
hence all the
Hands-on.
DIYs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interior design, and lots of friends had already come up to me. I was that go-to
Right.
friend for
Right.
which home goods is the best, or which paint color, or they
Yeah.
wanted me to go have coffee at their house, but then we ended up switching their living room around.
Right. Right. Like, let's reorganize your furniture. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's so fascinating.
So that's
Well,
what
it's
happened.
fascinating
And
because
now here we
like
are.
our parallels, but I was just going to say the parallels between our stories are so interesting because my dad was like a contractor and a home builder. My mom is like Pinterest as a person. And then I worked in corporate, and then my daughter was the catalyst for my change. So that's so fascinating that we have such parallels in our stories. But it
Yeah,
is
I
so
love that.
interesting how it's so interesting how like what you think you're going to be or do, and then life happens and it just like shifts you onto this path that you never saw coming, but is just
Oh
like
no.
so magical. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
our friends in graduate school still to this day, they're like, what? What? Like they knew us as therapists and they're
Yeah,
like, wait, Travis is a contractor now? I'm
right,
like, yeah. It's
right.
wild. It's
Right. I
very
was in like
wild.
oil and gas finance with power tools. So yeah, everyone from
Yeah.
before is like, what is she doing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I feel like on the surface though, people that you're sharing this story with probably don't think like therapy and home design have a lot in common, but there is such a strong intersection. I know you have found this space. Yeah, you're like so connected with how those things relate. But I think, what would you say the intersection of like mental health and your home like looks like from your perspective?
So one of the first things, whether it's a, straightforward therapy client or a interior design client, it's really helping them make sense of their story. And
Mm,
with interior design, what I really love is that I'm able to not only help them make sense of their story at home, but then I help them tell it through all the interior
yes.
design, whether it's the colors and the textures or the rearranging of the walls. So the psychology is super important because, as you know, the more aware, so it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. It doesn't mean
Right.
that we have to get to a certain place before we allow ourselves certain change ups at home or internally. It's really more of like, how do I become the most authentic being in this sacred space we have? Like, home is, and especially during the pandemic, all of us, you know,
Mm,
learned that home is really where we can be the most vulnerable.
right.
And it's not just a resting stop of sleep, eat, maybe some interaction, and then we go out into the world again. This is
Yes.
really a refuge for us. And how do we intentionally make that work for us, not only on an external perspective, but
Mm-hmm.
internally? If I
Yes.
really want to be the best mom, because that makes me so fulfilled,
Right.
what kind of feelings do I have about that? How do I explore that? And what I love doing is using interior design to help set up that environment so you can take a closer look inside of yourself or the relationships that exist in the home
Yeah.
and not have that be a scary thing,
Right.
not have
Right.
that be a shaming thing, but
Mm.
more so an inviting thing.
Yes.
So that's how I really feel like using psychology on ourselves through our
Mm-hmm.
home is is just a fabulous tool, and
Yes.
all the while feeling calmer.
Right.
Who doesn't want to feel
Who
calmer at
doesn't
home,
want that?
more confident at home, more happy? Like, who doesn't? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Right.
exciting for me to use that expertise.
Oh my gosh, I bet. But yeah, that's something we talk about on the show all the time is my mission is to try to shift everyone's perspective from really viewing your home as a physical space filled with things you love to an environment and thinking of it as a living breathing environment where it's not like before and after. It's not snapshots or material. I mean, that's part of it, but it is like an environment, and just like all these fake plants that need, sunlight to thrive and
Yeah.
resources, like we're the same way, and our homes can be that for us. And I love that you have such a level of expertise when it comes to that to bring to this conversation. And I've heard a lot that, your home can kind of be a mirror, like as far as what's happening out here, whether it's messy or chaotic, is a mirror of what's happening in here. I guess the first question is, do you believe that to be true? And if so, what are some ways that can show up for us?
So, when we were being trained as interns for counseling, one
Yeah.
of the first things that we learned, which is because I did home visits. So, I was a social
Okay.
worker, I was a marriage and family therapist intern. So, I would do a lot of
Okay.
home visits. My
Right.
catchment area was Compton all the way up to Malibu. So, I
Wow.
saw a
A
variety of homes,
range.
a variety of demographics and family dynamics, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that was we had to learn first is right when you come into through their front door is not only noticing the physical environment, but what's the emotional climate. So
Wow.
I
Okay.
had homes where the minute I stepped in, there was chaos,
Mm.
shoes, jackets, backpacks, just a total mess right when I came in. And then you could see just the clutter on the kitchen countertops, the dishes,
Right.
the snacks that weren't put away, to maybe the family room being a mess and spilled stuff on the sofa. Like that was instantly you can tell, and not in a judgmental way, but
Right.
just like an observational information that was being fed to
Right.
me right when I came in. It's like, okay, there is a lot of chaos going on. There's not much
Mm-hmm.
structure. And on the other hand, I would go into homes that maybe were too pristine and the emotional
Mm.
climate was very sterile. Like you could tell
Wow.
the
Okay.
emphasis of being perfect was high on their
Yes.
list, and the relationships and how that impacts relationships having to be put together. And
Mm.
everything had to look like it came out of a magazine,
Uh huh.
So that's two very extremes, but and then there was everything in between. So I do truly believe how we manifest whatever we're feeling internally can definitely manifest externally. And instead of judging ourselves for it, making it more of an observational, informational um,
Yes.
perspective, that narrative will help us then say, okay, I am tired of yelling at my kids every day, or I'm tired of telling my partner to pick up his piles of clothes in the bedroom. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
How do I translate that um, externally so that internally I can feel calmer? Because it's a
Yeah.
loop. I call it a positive loop or a
Right.
negative loop, and it's
Right.
it's using that information to say, how do I stop this loop and create a better loop for my family
Better
and
loop.
myself?
Wow, that's a really, really powerful shift because instead of like a standard where you hit it or you don't, it's like it's just a
Yes.
feedback loop and a spectrum. And I think what you said about the pristine environment also having its own kind of struggle is fascinating. First of all, I've never heard,
Yes.
I kind of connected like if your home's a wreck, maybe you are too. But just the idea that it's a spectrum and both ends and both extremes can be damaging. And I think so often with all the beautiful home inspiration and pristine magazine worthy spaces, a lot of people hold their homes to that standard and haven't even considered that that standard might indicate something else going on, like a home that maybe isn't
Yeah,
as
yeah,
nurturing
like
or, yeah, yeah,
for sure.
that
It's
is cool.
it's we I mean, we all compare, right? That's like a
Right.
human nature thing to do, because way back when the caveman days, it was out of survival. It's like, oh, where'd they get those berries and hunt, like in
Right.
order to survive, the comparison was a way to further their survival. Um, and
Yeah.
nowadays, I mean, obviously that's not needed. But when it comes to wanting to compare ourselves to Archdigest homes and things like that, it's
Uh-huh.
something good to strive for if that makes you calmer and happier internally. If a very
Mm.
clean home, which we all strive for, right? Like,
Right.
it is
Right.
going to make our internal world great. But if that only becomes your only goal of like, but everything has to be perfect or pristine, that kind of self pressure oozes
Yeah.
into our vibe or energy at home. And I'm all about the energy in our home.
Yes. Yes. Because it really just sets the tone for you to even exist. And if that's not right, you can't be at ease no matter how your house looks. So that is like, that's such a good shift to move away from the like
Yeah, so
how it looks to like how it feels. Yeah.
absolutely. It's energy. What, so for me, when I walk through a house, whether it's renovating or styling, it's really asking the homeowner, how do you envision your relationships in here? What are your relational vibes? What are your energy vibes that
Yeah.
you really want? Is it happy? Is it energetic? Then we will put in some pops of red or orange, in there.
Right.
That's okay. Those colors are not always bad. So really
Right.
helping everyone see that it's not bad, it's not good, it's not all or nothing, but it's more of a and. So I'd love
Yes.
a beautiful home, and I'd like to feel relaxed. I don't want to feel that pressure of having it look, perfect and then I can't live
Yeah.
in it. So,
Right. Like a
really
museum. Don't
including
touch
that
anything.
vocab. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
having that gray area be something that you embrace
Mm.
instead of fighting.
Yeah. Right. That's interesting because I talk a lot about, kind of how to reframe your style as like viewing it as creative expression instead of like design elements and rules. But the concept that we're also like your style in your home is kind of like your personality and also your relational style, like, and that vibe I think
Absolutely.
is even just that's a really beautiful way to kind of flesh out that concept all the way, because it's like at the
Yes.
end of the day your home isn't just for you, whether it's inviting friends over here and there, whether you have a family or a partner. The relationship aspect is huge too, so that's
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's my biggest passion. That's
Mm.
really ultimately, you know, it was my biggest passion when I was in the therapist's office, which is
Right.
helping people clarify and elevate and improve their relationships, whether it's with themselves or with others. And so now through interior design, yes, let's get rid of the dated cabinets. Yes, let's
Mm-hmm.
clean up that, living room and make it more functional and livable.
Yeah.
But how is it impacting yourself and the relationships that live in it? And that's my driving force
Right.
in then the rest follows, right? So
Right.
it's a
Right.
beautiful question to ask, instead of like, well, this room is, like, instead of putting the room as the front priority,
Mm.
make it about the relationships and
Yes.
how you want
I
to
love
improve the
that reframe.
relationships in there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so good. So I know through this process of transitioning from therapy to being a designer, you've developed your own method, and it's kind of just a whole I was like reading through the book and just kind of shifting to the what do you call them? The four domains.
Yes, the four
Can we walk
domains.
through those and kind of what they are? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and this is a lot of it was born out of my 20 years of working with clients in the office or
Yes.
home visits, like especially home visits.
Yeah.
I found myself organizing for them.
Right?
And
Oh.
yeah, it was such an integral part of therapy, because
Yeah.
it goes hand in hand, right?
Right.
Our external experience and our internal experience, it's not separated. It's totally a godly, it's a glob at
Yeah.
times, and that's why there is anxiety, that's why there is depression, because when there isn't structure, externally or internally or both, we just feel like a hot mess. And so it was impossible to not do some interior design work when I was in their homes. And unbeknownst to me, I was developing my method all those years.
Right.
And so the 4 domains is very parallel to like your therapy experience. So in the therapy world, individual work is probably the most prioritized.
Right.
And then you can work on your other relationships, but your internal individual work is first. So in the individual domain, and this applies to any space in your home. So these domains, if you can think of it as layers.
Right.
Okay. And so you can look at a space and say, which layer do I want to emphasize in this space? So the first one is individual domain, and that's really focusing on yourself. So say reading corners, little nooks and crannies that you can find some solace in to take that pause and maybe meditate. Individual domain is that emphasis of how do I make this room or this space or this corner something for me?
Yeah.
And then as you explore yourself, then the second part would be organizational, because in order for us to feel all the positive energy and vibes, we kind of need some kind of structure, right?
Right.
So in any space, there's the organizational layer that you can focus on. And generally that's like the hallway closets, the pantries, the closets, the bathroom drawers and countertops.
Right.
But how does the organizational layer of this space help me, help my family, help my partner? And then the third domain is communal.
Okay.
So once you have your individual, domain kind of decided, and you have some organizational tips and tools in that room, or another, whatever emphasis you want is settled, then you can look broader. Right. And that's the communal spaces and the communal relationships that live in these spaces. So typically that's more like the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. And in those areas, I give ideas of how to make your relationships flourish. And like, say, teenagers, they are constantly on their devices. I know, because I have 2. Right. And so I helped clients make, like, the kitchen. We have these pop-up outlets. And instead of a power struggle of, hey, get off your device, get off your device, get off your device, we have a family rule. And this is something I shared even back then when I was just the therapist, is this is a device hub. And if you have to turn in your devices by a curfew time, like 10:30 or whatever, and if it's there at 10:30, great, you have access to it the next day. If it's 10:31, sorry, you don't get it. Now, I understand with Google and doing schoolwork, you'll have to modify, to your kids' lifestyle and academics. But in general, having a neutral area instead of their room, your room, or whatever, areas that you wouldn't think of are wonderful ways to have communal communication hubs, communal device hubs. So I have some really fun ideas about that. And then renewal. Yeah. So once your self is identified, you have some clarification, you have some organization, which, is structured, and then you have your relationships kind of, going and flourishing, then it's time for you to have that renewal. And in every space, there's a renewal layer that you can emphasize. And it doesn't have to be just the bathrooms and, the areas to lounge, but it tends to be more of like places where you can just rest and soak in all that self-care. So those are the 4 domains, a little long-winded.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I wanted, because I think having those like buckets, or like kind of just different ways to think about it, gives such a beautiful structure where it's not overwhelming. You know where to start. Like, I'm going to start with me and get myself in order, and then build out from there. And so it's like, yeah, I think it makes the process less intimidating. And I think the best analogy is sort of like when there's a vine that has like a stick to climb up. It's like your structure is the stick. And if you have that, whether it's the 4 domains or just creating those like organizational systems in your space, then you can flourish because you have that like solid foundation. And so when you go too far into either way, like too much structure or too much like free for all, that's when you get out of balance. And also knowing that that balance is different for everyone depending on personality and your family, but just knowing that that's
Absolutely.
what you're shooting for, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's very much a therapeutic process. It's
Yeah,
there's no like end, there's no beginning and end. We are
right.
evolving human beings. And so giving ourselves
Yeah,
the grace to just explore,
yeah,
explore in our home
right.
environment, trying this time or emphasizing that the next time. And all in all, the biggest takeaway, from my therapy experience is just really extending grace to ourselves, because I think there's just a lot of
Right.
ideas we get in our head about how our home should be, how our relationships should look like, and
Mm,
um, different hangups about it. And I'd love to flip the script for people and have their
yes.
homes serve them in a way that's grace filled.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language. I wrote a whole journal to help people unpack their ideas about home, but just knowing that there's tangible ways where you can take that insight and then now have a structure to kind of implement it in practical ways.
Yes.
But yeah, I think everyone gets, or many people, I should say, not everyone, really struggles with the aesthetics portion kind of leading the home design conversation. Like, I feel like it's like 80 or 90% of what we talk about when it comes to our house is like how things look or paint colors or art or all of that. How do you balance kind of knowing that that's an important piece of everything and those are the
Yeah.
tools that we have to make these changes with, shifting the focus to like, you know, I don't know, I guess more holistically approaching design where we're balancing function and aesthetic. Do you have any strategies for that?
I think it's very organic and hand in hand. So once you have like what I call your core
Yeah.
desire in a space, your why, then the rest
Yeah.
really follows. Because if I want to feel vibrant in my
Mm.
work from home space, I am going to add some pops of brighter colors, because the serotonin and the dopamine levels in our brain, it responds to brighter colors. And that's where I love,
Right.
love, love sharing the science of interior design
Yeah.
to people, because it's not just, it is about how it makes us feel. But what I
Mm.
love is that there's so much research and science backed up
Yeah.
that it's a no
Yeah.
fail, so
Mm.
once you have a very clear intention, because I'm all about intentions. I'm sure that's why you made your journal, right? It's like,
Yeah.
as long as we have some intentions for a space, then throw fear out the window. And I love how you mentioned like anybody can learn how to use a drill, or like
Yeah.
we just got to throw
Right.
that fear out. We have so many limiting beliefs that we hang on to
Mm.
that we don't even realize about ourselves
Yeah.
in our home. And
Yeah.
so it's really starting with an intention, being clear about it. And once you know what you want to get out of the space, then it's like, okay, this is going to be a high energy room. So I want more
Right.
patterns. I want more colors. I want this. I want that. Or I want it to be just a really simple space for me. Then
Mm.
that have that lead your aesthetics and design.
Right. It's like setting that and getting clear on that. You kind of automatically knock off half the decisions because you know so many things that you're not going to put in there. So then what you have to choose from is way more manageable. So that's really, yeah,
100%.
that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. So I guess I know some other things you talk about, and I guess this is with trying to kind of find concepts that can help us continue to shift how we think about our home. But I know you talk about like boundaries and also like long term organizational goals. Can you share kind of some practical, tangible things around that? Like, what does that look like when it comes to your house?
So, one of the very popular ideas I have that people are really, really loving is called the ski slope method. And
Uh
this
huh.
is a
Okay.
very, I needed a sustainable way to clean up. And I don't know about you, you have kids, so it's like Our family room, since like the birth of our first child, it's like it's connected to our kitchen. So the playpen was there, and it was just like a throw up of Fisher Price. Of just like
Right.
the
Like
baby
colorful
swing, the
everywhere.
playpen, the jumpy, everything. And so
Yeah.
I had just mom struggles of, I still want my home to look like a home, but I have kids. Okay. That's just reality. How do I
Right.
find that middle balance, that middle place for myself? And so I developed the ski soap method myself, because things that were told to me, which is clean up 15 minutes every day at night before you go to bed,
Right.
that didn't work for me
No.
because that wasn't enough to make a dent.
Right.
Like
Right.
literally, as you cleaned up, every mom knows this. As you're cleaning up, your toddler or your preschooler is following behind you and taking the things out that you literally put in a basket.
And they're so fast. They're so fast. It's like the second you get it put away, they make an even bigger mess. It's like I
It's
don't know how
like
they do it, but
how, but it happens. And then
yeah.
I would do the purge, right? Like every 3 months. Okay, tell my husband this weekend is cleanup weekend, and there'd be big bags of
Right.
junk and things to give away and everything. And I just
Right.
was in this vicious cycle that was not making me happy. It was stressing me out. And I just, one day, instead of seeing, put my therapist hat on, instead of seeing all or nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to just go corner to corner. So very much like when you're learning how to ski, they don't tell you to just go straight down
Yeah.
that hill. They ask you to traverse.
Right.
And so in a room,
Mm.
instead of looking at it front and center saying, oh my God, I have to clean up all this, I have to give away that, just traverse the room. So it's corner to corner. And you just, when you traverse it, there's little triangles that, so if you could see my finger. So I would just clean
Right.
up the little triangles as I'm traversing down the room like a ski slope. And I gave myself the deadline of still doing it in a day, but I would do chunks and then take breaks so that I wasn't overwhelmed.
Right.
And people are loving it because you're
Mm.
still getting things done in a shorter amount of time,
Right.
but you're intentionally cleaning up that clutter in chunkable bites so that it's very fulfilling and
Right.
satisfying. It's not like, oh, I have more to do tomorrow. You're
Yes.
going to get it done. But it's in little bites where it's
Right.
like you can stop and really think more about, what do I want to do
Mm.
with these things? Is this something I want to keep? Because when you're doing the every 3 months cleanup, pretty much everything, at least for me, if you're a tosser like me, you just want to toss
Yeah.
everything out. If you're a saver, that's very
Right.
stressful because then you've got 3 months worth or 6 months
Yes.
or a year worth of stuff to go through.
Yep.
And then the 15 minutes thing is just, you don't have enough time to think about really long term what you want to do with that clutter.
Right.
So that's a
Yeah,
wonderful,
it's that spectrum again. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Like either we're
yeah,
doing it every, 3 months in a huge way and it's too much, or we're doing it in too little of a piece to make a true impact. So,
yes.
yeah,
So
writing that middle line. And I feel that with the purge. Like, I'll get a dumpster and be like, it's cleanup time. And then suddenly it's like, all bets are off. I want to throw away the whole house. But it's like, no, like in 2 weeks, I will have thrown away the thing that I now need because I
yes,
didn't think intentionally about it. So, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I like that method. That's cool.
One thing that is helpful to think about is tossers and savers are actually two sides of the same coin. So that
Mm.
anxiety that builds in us, this
Mm.
is more of like a psychological perspective for you, is
Okay. Yeah.
there's anxiety about, I don't know what to do. So when we are feeling ambivalent, whether it's
Mm.
about clutter, a relationship, a job change, a move, finding a different home, there's ambivalence
Yeah.
because it's like, well, there's good things here and there's not so great things here. And that anxiety about having to make that decision, that's what drives us to be reactive. That's what makes us keep and just save things and just be like all or nothing, like, well, I'm just going to save everything so then I don't risk that, vulnerability or that risk of making a mistake. Or the tosser
Right.
personality is like, I'm just going to get rid of everything so I don't have to feel anything. I don't want this anxiety about it
Yeah.
anymore. But really, another idea I have for, clutter is called the holding box. And whether this is in therapy, this is what I helped clients do internally, and externally, what I help interior design clients do is, how do we hold that ambivalent feeling just a little bit longer? Because we got to work through that anxiety and that ambivalence to really know what we truly want. And when you stop that process and you just toss or keep, you're truncating your emotional process to make a true decision for yourself. So, holding on to certain things that you're ambivalent about is, just like 24, 48 hours. It doesn't mean a whole year. Helps you work through that feeling and builds that emotional muscle to say, okay, it's okay to feel ambivalent. Like, I don't need to get rid of this feeling so fast. I don't need to get rid of this anxiety feeling. Let me give myself a beat to work through that anxious moment and see where I land, And that will really help you clear your home in a much more intentional manner than just be a tosser or saver.
Right. That is powerful. And I think what's illuminated for me with that conversation, what came up is like, it's so cool how our physical spaces can be such a tool for like what's going on in our lives. Because I immediately started thinking about like my relationship. We're in a very like unsure process of like, are we staying together or are we not? And how do we do that either way intentionally? And so just thinking about like how we can use clutter and practicing with physical things, with small things, honing that skill to where then when it comes to these big life decisions like leaving a job or a relationship, you've built that muscle. And like how cool that in taking care of your home, it's not only impacting you as far as like my house is amazing, it supports me, it's also like helping you regulate your emotions or build those sort of skills that you can use. So wow, that was really impactful. That's cool.
You hit the nail on the head, because as I was, writing my book, and it was during the pandemic, it was crazy. One of the things that I really wanted to empower readers with is just exactly as you said, is, going to therapy, awesome. It could be totally transformational, but it can be kind of expensive, right? And so if you, unless you're not, of course, a crisis, we always need extra support. But if it's just like general personal growth, I was like, our homes are such a powerful way to empower ourselves to gain that emotional muscle, because as we are stronger from the inside, then all our outside goals, as we leave the home, we are our best selves. We're equipping ourselves with the best communication skills or relationship skills, as we learn in our own home, in our own space where we can mess up, make mistakes, no judgment, So it's exactly as you said, and I'm thrilled that kind of triggered your brain into something positive.
Yeah. I'm happy for myself. I hope everyone else is having the same kind of aha moments, because that one was huge for me. But through your process of writing your book, I know that can be such a long process, and I'm sure it's kind of interesting to get all the stuff that's in your brain out into like your manifesto, like your whole system of everything. Was there any like, I don't know, cool stories or like aha moments that you got to have going through that process of writing?
There are so many. Book writing, the process itself is an emotional journey, because but especially during the pandemic, if you can imagine, couldn't even really find a photographer. All the photographers weren't working. Thankfully, I found wonderful photographers, but the stress of even trying to get the book made under those circumstances was extremely challenging. But I never gave up because of the passion I had to share this message with everyone. So that's really what drove me, was not really the outcome of the book, but more of like, wow, through the pandemic, everyone is experiencing home in a different way. And I'd love to share this idea because I think people were more open to the idea of mental health,
Right.
because of the
Right.
pandemic. And I definitely people were DIYing like crazy, as you
Yep.
know, and just so much more acutely aware of how our home serves us.
Right.
So, but yeah, just like I remember we shot 15 homes, 5 in New York. And as I was out, coming off, not boarding the plane, but getting off the plane at the gate, there would be like military men checking our vaccination cards. Like it was
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
so crazy to make this book during the pandemic. But again, it was so interesting as far as giving me so much more heightened insight
Mm.
of what we desperately needed. Just a total paradigm shift of what home used to be to us pre-pandemic versus now post-pandemic.
Right.
So yeah, there was
Wow.
definitely a lot of technical challenges, but now that it's here, it's like, oh, just a
Yeah.
labor of love that I'm so
Yes.
happy to share with everyone.
Oh my gosh. And it's wild to think it's like the book would not have been the same book had you not written it at the time you did. I'm sure there's just, even the same concepts, but in that context, the way it would have shifted everything is wow, so cool. And I'm so thankful for your dedication because like your work is so needed. Like the way that people are, and I see it in my DMs every single day, just like overwhelmed with inspiration, have this inkling that they want to take charge of their house. I'm over here trying to teach people power tools and little strategies, but to really lead people to the deeper work that needs done. So I hope that I'm introducing everyone, but then finding incredible people like you that are really are such a guide for this deeper work that when you do it, it will literally change your life. Like your house will be amazing, but like it will change your life. And that sounds very dramatic to say, but it's so true. So, yeah, I'm so glad that you stuck with the process. And I think the book is incredible. I will link it in the show notes, of course, for I think everyone needs it. Um, but yeah, your work is amazing. Like, so amazing.
Thank you, Cara. I'm so honored to be here, and I love your message of empowerment because we all need to start somewhere. And
Right.
I'm a total proponent of using DIYs as a
Mm.
wonderful way to increase our mental endurance. It's like running a
Yeah.
marathon.
Yeah.
Physically running it, I only ran one half marathon, but it
Mm-hmm.
taught me so much about mental endurance. And
Right.
then when Travis and I started doing DIYs, oh my God, like, did it teach us mental endurance or what?
Right.
And I love using the idea of DIYs and elevating that experience to, hey,
Mm.
use DIYs as a way for personal self growth,
Right.
of not giving up, pushing
Right.
yourself a little more, and it
Mm.
absolutely impacts your personal growth. So I love what you're
Yes.
doing too. It's so fun to see every day. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. Yeah, it's wild to see just stories from women like being like I bought my first nail gun and now I'm leaving my toxic relationship because I learned I can do things on my own and it's like wow, like I thought I was just teaching people how to make something fun, but like the work is yeah, really deeper.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I want everyone to be able to connect with you online so they can follow along as well. Where's the best place to find you and stay like up to date with what you're doing?
So I'm definitely on Instagram, and my handle is Anita Yokota. Super
Uh-huh.
easy.
Yeah.
And then also on Pinterest and my website, anitayokota.com. And I'm on TikTok too.
Yes, I love TikTok. It's so fun.
It's super fun.
Yeah, it definitely got me through the pandemic. Just having like a new platform and everyone was kind of like just on there free for all, like being themselves in their bedroom and yeah, the connection that is there is really cool. It's a
Yes,
fun
absolutely.
place. I love it. I feel like I could talk to you all day. Like I could literally take up your whole day with just everything. But this episode is going to be amazing. There are so many good nuggets and just like practical changes that I think people could just like immediately implement. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for your time. Thank you for sharing so openly all your beautiful tips and strategies. And yeah, thank you for being here. I'm
Thank you
so
for
excited.
having me. It was
Yeah.
so, so lovely to share with you and your audience.
Thanks for listening. And if you've got more episodes to catch up on, binge on. Don't let me stop you. But if you've got a second, you should come say hi on Insta at MakeSpacePod. And if you're an overachiever, you can also leave a review and I'll love you forever. If you're new here, hit that follow button to officially become a DIY queen and join all the amazing humans tuning in every week.